Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to our witnesses for joining us today. You know, in the last couple of years, this committee's led efforts to grow our economy and get people back to work. And now we've got to look at how do we help people prepare for retirement after their careers are over. And I think all of us here know that means we need to look at how we can protect and preserve Social Security for not just current generations, but also future generations as well. As we mentioned before, you know, if we do nothing, Social Security Trust Fund for retirement will be depleted in 2034, which would result in a 21, ultimately up to 25% cut in payment benefits. And so clearly we must act, and I believe we should act sooner than later because it's going to be an easier solution to make. And I think it's an issue Republicans and Democrats can work together on and solve this for our country. But we've got to make sure that the solution doesn't involve devastating tax cuts, which will slow down the economy, put more people out of work. Unfortunately, the plan we're talking about today from Congressman Larson's includes a nearly 20% payroll tax increase, which I believe will hurt lower income, hurt millennials, and help make it harder for small businesses to give raises to current workers or create new jobs. And that threatens to bring the economic growth that we've seen to a halt or drastically slow it down, which will cause us to reverse course. And that's something that, you know, the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act have helped working families keep more of their money that they've earned. So in addition to that, the plan results in similar benefit increases for people making $23,000 a year, as well as those making over $250,000 a year. And so with the trust fund in danger of drying up, I don't think we need to help the wealthy get more money out of the trust fund. We need to focus on how can we come up with a better solution. So instead of raising taxes, let's focus on what we can do to make sure that the Social Security Trust Fund supports those that are most in need, reward work, and modernize the program. And as always, with the case of improving Social Security, I think we need a bipartisan solution to help make that happen. I do have a couple questions that I wanted to go through. And, you know, one of the things, Mr. Goss, you noted during your discussion that Social Security revenue can only be used to pay Social Security benefits. And under the Larson plan, the Medicare Trust Fund is supposed to be made whole from changes to tax on benefits. But it doesn't show anything about general revenue transfers. So can you explain a little bit about how the Medicare Trust Fund is going to be protected? Is the money going to come transferred from Social Security? Is it going to be transfers from general revenue, or how's that going to happen?
Really excellent question. Social Security benefits above the $25,000 and $32,000 thresholds now are subject to being taxed up to half or even up to 85% for personal income tax. IRS collects that revenue from individuals from paying their income taxes and segregates out the amount that comes from Social Security benefits. They then divide that up amongst the old age and survivors insurance, disability insurance, and Medicare hospital insurance trust funds per the law and per the way it's intended to be distributed. So the money all really comes into IRS. The money is then simply provided as directed by law, divvied up, if you will, amongst those three trust funds. Right. So what we would be talking about here is there would be a reduction in the total amount of income tax on OESDI benefits going forward, and there, with less money coming in, there has to be less money distributed amongst those three funds. This law would say that it is not intending to touch the Medicare Hospital Insurance Fund, so it would still get the same dollar amount that we would have were this law not enacted. That would mean less would have come to the OESI and DI trust funds.
So, but wouldn't, if we're raising the caps on salary, income, on income in which those are being taxed, wouldn't there be less tax, which means there'd be less going into either the old age or to Medicare trust fund?
That's correct. There would be. Of course, somewhat offsetting that, of course, is if we start to have larger benefit levels in the future. Larger benefit levels will therefore, by way of being larger, there will be more benefits that can be subject to income tax. So they work in opposite directions.
All right. Thank you very much, and I yield back.